Think about your own travel habits for a second. Or honestly, even if you aren't a big traveler at all, just think about your fundamental desire to feel connected to the wider world around you.
Yeah, that innate curiosity we all have.
Exactly. Are you currently prepping for some big international trip, maybe, agonizing over your itinerary? Or maybe you are sitting at home just insanely curious about how to be a more informed, culturally connected person in your daily life.
Right. But you want to do it without dealing with the constant crushing weight of information overload.
Yes. Because let's face it, the news cycle alone is enough to make anyone want to disconnect completely.
Oh, absolutely. It's exhausting.
It really is. So if you are sitting there nodding along, you are in the exact right place. Today, we are taking a deep dive into a really fascinating pillar post from the travel and expat site, A Bus on a Dusty Road.
It's such a great site.
It is. And the piece we're looking at today is titled Defining the Modern Nomad, Living Your Life as a Global Citizen.
It is a genuinely thought-provoking piece of writing. And what we are really trying to do with this deep dive today, our core mission, is to extract a major paradigm shift presented in these materials.
Right.
We're going to look closely at how the concept of the modern nomad has fundamentally evolved over time. It used to be entirely about physically moving around the map.
Collecting those passport stamps.
Exactly, proving you've been to far-flung places. But the argument here is that it has become something entirely different. It's evolved into a specific mindset.
A mindset, yeah.
And the absolute best part, it is a mindset that you can adopt right now, right in your own neighborhood, without ever packing a single bag or booking a flight.
Okay, let's unpack this because the source starts by giving us a really clear framework to understand this shift. They break down the spectrum of modern nomadism into 4 distinct categories.
4 categories, right.
Now look, we all know the basics. We know what a tourist is and we know what a backpacker is. The tourist is seeking leisure, sightseeing, and comfort. It's the classic example the piece gives, which I love, going all the way to Rome, admiring the incredible ancient architecture from the sidewalk, eating some delicious gelato,
Snapping a bunch of photos.
snapping so many photos, and then flying home. You enjoy the aesthetic of the place, but you remain entirely an outsider to the city's actual messy daily life.
Precisely. You're observing the surface level, and the backpacker is just a slight variation of that.
Yeah, how so?
Well, they are seeking budget adventure and maybe a bit more authenticity. But their defining characteristic is that they're still largely transient.
Right, they're moving on to the next hostel.
Exactly. They are just passing through, even if they sleep in a dorm room instead of a luxury hotel.
Right, so we can breeze past those two. What I really want to drill into is the jump from the third category, the digital nomad, to the final form, which is the global citizen.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Because to me, if you are a digital nomad, blending your work and your exploration, maybe settling down in a foreign country for weeks or months at a time, that sounds pretty global to me.
It does on the surface.
I mean, you're literally living and working abroad. So what am I missing here? Why does the source draw such a hard line between a digital nomad and a global citizen?
What's fascinating here is the core difference in how those identities are constructed. The tourist, the backpacker, and yes, even the digital nomad are all primarily defined by physical movement and a profound sense of temporariness. Their identity is tied to the fact that they are somewhere else, and eventually their lease will end, their visa will expire, and they will move on.
Oh, I see.
But the global citizen, that identity is defined entirely by their approach to the world around them. The digital nomad might just be physically present, but the global citizen is seeking deep integration, profound understanding, and meaningful engagement with cultures and communities, regardless of their geographic coordinates.
I see what you mean, but surely living in another country for 6 months gives you that integration naturally, doesn't it? Just by osmosis?
You would think so, but the source specifically warns against assuming that. They point out the very real trap of the expat bubble.
Oh, the expat bubble.
Yes. You can be a digital nomad who lives abroad for extended periods, but if you just stay in your comfortable expat bubble, only talking to other foreigners who speak your language.
And only eating at cafes that cater specifically to remote workers.
Exactly. If you do that, you aren't truly integrating. You haven't engaged with the local culture at all.
Oh, that is so true. We've all seen that, right? People who will travel 6,000 miles across the globe just to seek out an air-conditioned coffee shop that looks exactly like the one they left behind.
Serving the exact same oat milk lattes.
Yes. Hanging out with people who do the exact same remote job they do. In that scenario, you are basically just a tourist with a longer apartment lease and a slightly better Wi-Fi connection.
That is the exact trap. The difference between the nomad and the citizen isn't in the geography. It is in the willingness to push past your own comfort zone.
Right.
It's about whether you are willing to interact meaningfully with the people whose country you are actually living in.
Which brings us perfectly to the central thesis of this whole piece, the difference between visiting and integration.
A crucial distinction.
I was thinking about how to visualize this for you, the listener, and the best way I can describe it is like being invited over to someone's house for a dinner party.
Oh, I like this.
When you are visiting, like the tourist or the digital nomad in the expat bubble, you are the guest who stays firmly in the dining room. You admire the beautiful table setting, you compliment the host on the food, you have some polite surface-level conversation, and then you leave.
You had a great time, but you were just a spectator.
Exactly. You had a really nice time, but you don't actually know how that house operates behind the scenes.
That is a highly effective analogy for what the text is communicating.
But integration. Integration is like being the guest who walks right past that beautifully set dining room, goes straight into the messy kitchen, rolls up their sleeves, and asks how they can help chop the onions.
Yes, getting your hands dirty.
You see the dirty dishes in the sink. You learn the secret family recipe. You might even argue a little bit about how much garlic to actually use. You aren't just observing the party, you are participating in the creation of it.
And the source is very explicit about what that kitchen time looks like in the real world. Integration means actually doing the hard work.
Like what, specifically?
It means taking the time to learn the local language. And we aren't just talking about learning how to order a beer. It means learning enough to have a real conversation.
That takes real effort.
It does. It also means understanding the local customs, not just so you can avoid offending someone, but so you actually comprehend the deeper why behind people's actions.
Oh, the deeper why. That's a great way to put it.
It is about appreciating the quiet, sometimes mundane nuances of daily life, rather than just showing up for the loud, colorful tourist festivals.
I love that idea of appreciating the mundane, but I have to play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
It's not exhausting. I mean, sometimes people just want a vacation. They just want to sit in the dining room and be served.
Of course they do. And the source isn't saying that taking a vacation is wrong. Leisure travel is perfectly fine.
Okay, good, because I need a vacation.
We all do. But the argument is that if your goal is to be a global citizen, you cannot achieve it from the dining room. Integration requires participation.
Right.
It requires moving beyond observing cultural stereotypes from a comfortable distance and doing the often messy work of recognizing our shared common humanity. It is an active pursuit.
Okay, so if you are listening to this right now and thinking, wow, I would absolutely love to be a global citizen. I want to roll up my sleeves in the kitchen of the world. But I have a 30-year mortgage, I have kids in elementary school, and I only get 2 weeks of paid vacation a year.
This sounds great for someone else.
A very valid concern.
Do not worry, because here's where it gets really interesting. The biggest twist in this entire deep dive, the real aha moment of the source material, is that you absolutely do not need to travel to be a global citizen.
You really don't.
You do not need a passport full of exotic spam.
It is a profound realization, and it completely flips the script on how we view global connectivity. The text explicitly states that living your life as a global citizen is not defined by your travel itinerary.
Right.
It is entirely about how you choose to engage with the world immediately around you.
Wait, hold on. I have to push back on this a little bit. It sounds really nice and egalitarian in theory.
Yeah.
But can you genuinely call yourself a global citizen if you've never left your home state?
Yes.
Isn't there something fundamental that you miss by not experiencing literal culture shock firsthand? It is a fair question. And it is exactly why the source frames global citizenship as a mindset rather than a physical checklist. Culture shock doesn't only happen when you cross a national border.
That's true.
You can experience profound cultural shifts simply by engaging deeply with different communities within your own city. If you are unable to travel internationally, the source argues that you can still deeply explore different cultures locally.
I guess I hadn't thought about it that way.
It isn't a lesser version of global citizenship. It is simply a different application of the exact same principles.
Okay, I'm intrigued. And the author doesn't just leave us with this abstract idea. They actually outline 5 practical ways you can engage in everyday life as a global citizen, right from your own hometown.
They do. It's very practical.
Let's walk through that roadmap, because I think this is incredibly actionable for anyone listening. Step 1 is Cultivate curiosity.
Yes, and cultivating curiosity means actively asking questions and seeking out stories in your daily life. It means rejecting the default mode of just passing through your own city on autopilot.
Which is so hard to do when I'm grabbing lunch on a Tuesday. I'm usually just looking at my phone, trying to get back to work.
Exactly. We all do it.
Yeah.
But cultivating curiosity means stopping to ask, what is the actual history behind this specific dish I'm eating?
Yeah.
Or if there is a cultural celebration happening downtown that you usually just walk past, stopping to ask, why do people celebrate this festival? What does it mean to them?
Right. Asking those deeper questions.
What are the specific challenges faced by this particular community right here in my city? It is about turning that lens of travel-like wonder onto your immediate surroundings.
I love that. Turning the lens of wonder onto your own neighborhood. Which leads beautifully into step 2, learn and share. The text frames learning as a lifelong, continuous process. We're talking about taking language classes at a local community center or attending workshops and public lectures.
And the crucial second half of that step is the sharing part. A global citizen doesn't just hoard knowledge, they disseminate it.
Oh, that's a great point.
It is about sharing the insights you gain with your own friends and family, sparking that same curiosity in your immediate circle.
That makes total sense. Step 3 is build relationships. The source suggests attending multicultural events, joining community groups, or volunteering with local organizations. To me, this sounds like taking that kitchen time we talked about earlier and applying it locally.
That is exactly what it is. You cannot integrate from afar. Building relationships means actually getting in the room with people who have completely different life experiences and backgrounds than you do.
It requires vulnerability.
It does. It requires you to step outside your usual social circles.
And step 4, appreciate diversity. Now, this sounds a bit like a corporate buzzword, but the source highlights some very accessible, practical ways to do this in your everyday life. It's about actively celebrating differences while simultaneously finding common ground.
Right. It suggests things like consciously expanding your media diet.
That's a big one.
Make a point to listen to music from around the world. Read international news sources instead of just your local paper. Read literature translated from other languages.
Curating your inputs.
Exactly. It is about ensuring that the voices you let into your head on a daily basis are not all coming from your exact same cultural background.
Which is so easy to do with the internet, yet so many of us just stay in our algorithmic bubbles.
We let the algorithm dictate our worldview.
Totally. Finally, step 5. Engage locally. The text literally says, global citizenship starts at home. It encourages you to explore your own city or town with the fresh eyes of a curious traveler. Learn the indigenous history of your area.
Yes, very important.
And one really specific, highly actionable point the author makes, intentionally support local businesses that are run by immigrants or minorities.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the source material actually weaves in several related articles that show us exactly how deep these everyday actions can go.
Oh, right, the other articles.
Let's take that specific point about trying new foods and supporting immigrant-run businesses. The author points to pieces titled The Universal Language of the Plate and a Global Plate.
I loved those sections.
They are brilliant because they completely reframe how we should look at dinner. They describe food as a sensory archive of history, geography, and tradition.
A sensory archive. That is such a phenomenal piece of phrasing. I just want to pause and marvel at that concept for a second. A sensory archive.
It completely changes the experience of eating, doesn't it?
It really does.
The argument these texts make is that when you sit down and eat a dish from another culture, you aren't just consuming calories or macronutrients. You are literally consuming an edible archive.
It's like going to a museum, but you get to eat the exhibits.
Exactly. A single dish contains the story of ancient trade routes. It tells you what spices were available in a specific region centuries ago.
Wow.
It reflects the geography of the land, the impacts of historical migrations, and even deeply held religious beliefs. It is a tangible sensory gateway into an entire culture's history.
So when you try that new immigrant-run restaurant in your town, as step 5 suggests, you're not just ticking a box.
No, you are participating in a profound, intimate cultural exchange.
It really makes a regular Tuesday night takeout order feel incredibly significant. You're unboxing centuries of human migration on your kitchen counter.
That's a great way to put it.
And the text doesn't stop with food, does it? It also pushes us to develop what we might call economic empathy.
Yes. The author references another powerful piece called The Invisible Engine. balancing the scales for women in the informal economy. And this section is vital for understanding true global citizenship.
It really is.
Because when most people picture the global economy, what is the first image that comes to your mind?
Oh, definitely. Stock market floors. Wall Street.
Mm,
Gleaming corporate towers with a bunch of people in suits checking their watches.
right. But the text argues that this is a fundamentally flawed, or at the very least, a drastically incomplete picture. Being a global citizen means seeing the real global economy. And the real global economy is often driven by entirely unseen women working in the informal sector.
And the author doesn't just leave that as an abstract concept. They give us very specific, striking examples to help us visualize this invisible engine, right?
They do. They ask us to recognize that the true engine of the global economy is the woman weaving textiles in her living room in Lahore.
Right.
It is the domestic worker navigating multiple households and long transit times in Lima. It is the roadside food vendor prepping ingredients before dawn in Phnom Penh. These are the people actually holding the economic fabric together.
Those specific examples, the weaver in Lahore, the domestic worker in Lima, the food vendor in Phnom Penh, they really pull you out of your local comfortable bubble.
They demand your attention.
It makes you realize that the shirt you are currently wearing or the coffee you are drinking right now ties you directly to these invisible engines all over the world. It is all deeply physically connected.
And that realization is the essence of global citizenship. It is moving from ignorance to awareness, and from awareness to empathy.
So what does this all mean? We have defined what a global citizen is. We have looked at the critical difference between merely visiting and actually integrating.
Yes.
And we have laid out exactly how to do this from your own hometown without ever needing a passport. But if you are listening to this right now, you might be asking a very practical question. Why should I put in all this effort?
It's a fair question.
Exploring my own city, reading international news, confronting the realities of the invisible economy. It sounds like a lot of work. What is the actual impact?
The author anticipates that exact question, and they outline 3 major tangible benefits to adopting this mindset.
Okay, let's hear them.
The first benefit is personal growth. By intentionally forcing yourself out of your comfort zone, whether that means navigating an unfamiliar neighborhood in your own city or simply trying to communicate across a language barrier, you build resilience.
Yeah, you build those muscles.
Exactly. The text states that this kind of local integration makes you more adaptable, significantly more open-minded, and helps you develop genuine empathy and stronger communication skills.
Basically, it makes you a much more mature, well-rounded human being. You stop being the center of your own universe.
Precisely. The second benefit scales up from the individual to the collective. Community strength.
How so?
The source argues that when global citizens actively engage locally, they strengthen the very fabric of their communities. They are the ones who build bridges.
Right.
And the text makes a very specific, bold claim here. Diverse communities that actually integrate, meaning they don't just politely coexist in separate parallel bubbles, but actually interact, share, and understand each other. Those communities become more innovative and far more resilient.
That makes total sense.
This kind of active, intentional integration directly reduces prejudice and promotes social harmony.
It's hard to hold on to prejudice when you're in the kitchen chopping onions with someone. And what is the final benefit?
The third benefit is global impact. This is where your local, everyday actions truly meet the massive global challenges of our time.
The big picture stuff.
Yes, we live in a world facing incredibly complex issues. Climate change, global migration, deep economic inequality. The text argues that the empathy and understanding you build by engaging locally is exactly what equips you to make informed choices on a much larger scale.
So it's not just about feeling good, it's about acting better.
Exactly. When you understand the deep interconnectedness of these issues, when you recognize the shared humanity of the textile weaver in Lahore or the roadside vendor in Phnom Penh, your empathy drives positive action.
You stop seeing them as statistics.
You stop seeing global challenges as distant, abstract problems happening to nameless people, and you start seeing them as human issues that you are intimately connected to.
It is the ultimate butterfly effect. The empathy you practice while learning about a dish at your local cultural festival directly impacts how you vote, how you choose to spend your money, and how you consume and interpret global news.
It's all linked.
It all comes together perfectly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to summarize the core message we have extracted from this. A bus on a dusty road material.
Please do.
The tagline of their piece, living your life as a global citizen, is not a description of a luxury travel itinerary. It is an active, daily invitation. It is an invitation to make the entire world your home, no matter where your physical house happens to be located.
Beautifully said.
It is about choosing to engage locally, choosing to stay curious, and consistently choosing deep, meaningful connection over passive, comfortable observation.
This raises an important question, and is a thought I want to leave you with, building on everything we have explored today.
Okay, lay it on us.
Think back to that profound concept of the global economy's invisible engine and the idea of your food functioning as a sensory archive.
Yeah.
The next time you sit down to eat a meal from a local immigrant-run restaurant in your own city, take a quiet moment to really look the plate in front of you.
Just look at it.
If a single dish contains the heavy, complex history of ancient trade routes, and if the ingredients or the very textiles on the table are tied directly to the silent labor of the global economy's invisible engine, what deep, interconnected human stories are you consuming, and perhaps completely ignoring, right in your own neighborhood?
Wow. That is definitely something to chew on, quite literally and figuratively. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We really hope this conversation has inspired you to step out of the comfortable dining room and into the messy, beautiful kitchen of the world, to stay intensely curious, and to keep learning about the incredible, interconnected human stories that are happening right outside your front door. Talk to you next time.